chaos rules with an iron fist.
Hey, there are donuts in the break room. Oh, and by the way, the busman wants a disruptive innovation by noon. I told him, no sweat, you'd use AI.
Where the chainsaw of change runs on high-octane jet fuel.
Hey, there are turkey legs in the break room. Oh, and the CIO wants a new DR site. I told him you couldn't get it done till Monday.
And fate rolls snake eyes every single time.
Hey, there are bat wings in the break room. Oh, and the production database is down. Again. CEO wants you now.
We're mired in a time where industry predictions are as empty as a vegan barbecue.
Data increases every year.
Security is top of mind.
More companies are going to the cloud.
AI makes results more intelligent and artificial.
The threat to pivot innovation.
Software is eating gluten-free.
By 2020, 2019 will be over.
My cat likes puzzles.
With salespeople roaming the streets in hordes.
Hi, I'm Mike from CloudStrata.io.
Jan from IO Data Scale.
Ed from Scale Data Strata Cloud IO.
Sue from Blue Monkey.
Jake from Red Donkey.
I'm Brick from Off-White Narwhal Slotfish.
And bullet points killing quicker than a double deep-fried burrito.
We make the world's leading
Hyper-converged application cloud-based hardware.
Machine-collected deep learning agile recognition.
Next, Jan Hybrid.
Middle-out compression.
Software-defined software as a service. As a service?
But it all stops now.
Howdy, howdy, all you chaos monkeys. So do you guys feel like you live in a chaotic world? Did any of those little vignettes resonate with you? Did that kind of ring true? Yeah. Or do you guys all have like totally placid jobs? You sit around and watch lights flash, right? It's a little bit of chaos in our world, and as Chad mentioned, it's only increasing. So one of the little segments in there was actually from a real life experience I had, and I'm sure you guys have been through something similar, where we were 8 months into a project to move a data center for a very large corporation, move half of its contents to a disaster recovery site with no production outages. 8 months into it in a meeting, one of the executives said, I don't know why this is taking so long. Most companies just do this like over a weekend. Do you guys work with a bunch of Einsteins like that? I'll tell you what, it does happen. So let's talk about chaos. I'm going to start off with a definition of chaos. This is the most perfect definition of chaos that I've run into. I'll spare you the British accent, but basically, Billy Shakespeare says, excellent wretch, perdition catch my soul, but I do love thee, and when I love thee not, chaos has come again. Now, I can put on my resume, I performed Shakespeare in Vegas. So, this is the most important chaos definition in my view because I have no friggin' idea what it means, right? It's fancy prose. We've got a beautiful appeal to authority with William Shakespeare. I know that there's something profound here, but I have no idea what it means. And if there's any English literature majors in the crowd, you're probably sitting there going, well, Mark, it's actually a poignant scene. Desdemona has just killed a duck with a wet cabbage. But no, you know what? You're wrong. You're wrong. That's not even William Shakespeare. That's Sir Francis Bacon. He invented the BLT, for real. So this is the type of chaos that we face when we're looking to solve problems. A lot of times we don't even know what the problems are. We get solutions that come in and just spout these things, like I said, appeals to authority, a bunch of fancy words, and we sit there going, what the heck, is it just me? I don't really understand what's going on. So let's take a more academic peek here at chaos. These are some more dictionary type definitions. You'll see that one of the themes that resonates across all of these is this continuum between chaos and disorder, this battle between control and chaos. And one of the things we're very blessed with is there is one gentleman, he spent his entire career researching, dissecting, and coming up with strategies to address this exact point. So Oh, come on. How many are over 45 here? You got any Maxwell Smart fans out there? So yeah, this guy's a genius, by the way. If you're under 45, his name's Maxwell Smart. He's one of the pioneers of IT. A guy used to talk into his own shoe. Not a lot of people doing that anymore. But go on to YouTube, stream the videos. It will totally enhance your career. But let's go ahead and talk about one of the definitions there. Talked about the infinity of orderless matter, right? So let's put a face onto that form of chaos. So if we take a look at this nebulous cloud of formless data, this very John Belushi type cloud of possibilities and non-determinism and risks out there. Let's pretend that you're an IT executive and you've been given the task of hitting 90% virtualization, or building a DR data center, or implementing continuous integration, continuous deployment, and you finally accomplish it. You've collapsed that chaos down into a central point, a locus of control. Let's pretend that that happened. As soon as that does, you're going to be attacked on 3 axes. By Nevada gaming laws, every research presentation has to have a graph, and this is ours. So the 3 axes here, we've kind of done some research on it, and this is the business axis, the resource axis, and the technology axis. You guys were very lucky earlier in this presentation to hear some speakers get up and talk about the disorder that occurs along the business axis, right? You heard guys like George Kurtz. He came in and talked about external threats, be they, nation states, be they bad actors besides Owen Wilson. There's a ton of external threats. Maybe the threats are your competition. We let some guy like Hayes Drumright get up on stage. We let him pop in like that. I think I get 2 shares in the company now. I said that. But so Hayes got up here. You heard him talk about culture and politics and how to overcome the disorder and challenges on that axis. So these are really smart people. I'm not going to really dig into that. So the business axis, definitely real, definitely poignant. You guys live with this. On the resource, this is a little more in our control, right? These are the resources that we operate with: our time, our budget, our skills, our staff, our processes. Again, some smart people doing some great work here. You heard Paul get up here and talk about the innovative work that they did balancing budget and assets. And maybe you don't call them assets, maybe you'd prefer to call them staff. You're going to hear a gentleman by the name of Gene Kim get up on here. He's going to talk about modifying staff and processes, especially in the DevOps world and the revolution that that's having in our industry. Along this axis, there's other smart people like Chris Laping that are putting people before things, taking a prioritization approach on how to slice through this. A lot of smart people out there. Again, I'm not going to dig into that. So far, there's been a presentation about all the stuff I'm not going to present on. We are going to dig into the technology axis, right? We're going to talk about how Trace3 research can help along with new technology, hype, differentiating the hype, defeating sunk costs, bias, growth, disruption, and believe it or not, the disruption caused by your legacy equipment. Isn't that kind of bizarre? So this is how Trace3 research can help you. You guys all waiting for the sales pitch here, aren't you? Well, I'll tell you what, I got good news for you guys. I am the best salesman you're ever going to talk to because I have absolutely nothing for sale, right? Trace3 research is provided to our customers as a value add. We don't charge for anything. I'm not here selling reports. I'm not selling 2x2 matrix with quadrants that are magic. I'm not doing any of that stuff. It's all free. A lot of our customers say that we're still very high priced, but nonetheless, it is what we've done. Let's talk about cutting through technical chaos. So a lot of you are our clients, and you guys deal with real-world problems every day, constantly. The barrage never stops. A lot of the smarter ones have brought along the elite engineering at Trace3 to help them battle this chaos and the challenges out there. We have a great history going back about 12 years, if my math is right, no, maybe closer to 15, of implementing new technologies through our partners and elite engineering at our customer site. And as you guys have heard, we do have kind of unrivaled access into the venture capital community. We're partnered with 24 of the top VC firms in the world, giving us a view of a little bit of what's over the horizon. Some smart people about 4 years ago said, what if we stuck something in the middle that watched all 4 of these areas and gleaned the lessons and patterns and trends that they were seeing? What if we were able to start mapping out the chaos in the technology world? What if we could do that? One of the first things that happened after Trace3 research was formed is we started noticing a pattern. You guys can tell me whether this resonates with you or not. But after going to hundreds and hundreds of customers, we realized that the 2 primary hemispheres of disorder that you're grappling with, one is on the tactical side, this is solving today's problems. One is on the strategic side, that's preparing for tomorrow's problems. So let's do like a little informal survey, call this Pop-In 0.5. By snapping your fingers, you guys can all do this, right? Okay, by snapping of fingers, how many of you guys have met with Trace3 or read one of our reports? Okay. 61%. That's a little higher than I would have expected, but hey, that's why we do the surveys, right? You have to follow the data. So let's dig a little bit into solving the tactical side of technology disorder. We've watched you guys grapple with this every day, and I am so impressed with the solutions that you guys have been able to implement in your various companies. We do meet with literally hundreds of you guys every year. We watch the challenges that you're up against, the constraints, changes in regulations, all kinds of stuff. And you guys do a very, very good job at this. And what we've done is tried to spot patterns and trends in how things are being solved and applied. And what we found is that the successful companies, first off, start very heavily looking at use cases. What is the problem we're going to solve? What are the features that a product is going to have in order to solve it in the way we need? What are the various approaches that are available on the market today, and what risks and benefits come along with that particular solution? Finally, we have to select a solution and implement it. This is the typical pattern we see on the tactical side, but I do want to dig into one of those. And this is the solution selection process. There are about 20,000 enterprise IT products that are released out into the wild every year. Not all of them make it, but that's a boatload. There are a ton of them. Of these 20,000 companies and products that enter the market, some are from startups, some are from incumbents, and this number only includes the enterprise side. I'm not counting, Angry Birds or anything on the consumer side. Of these, there are about 2,000 that wind up becoming legitimate players. Of those 2,000, there are about 1 in 10 that are doing an innovative approach, something a little bit different than the 1.0 version of things, of which our customers typically will wind up having purview into about 20 of them and selecting about 2 to do some sort of deep dive or POC. This research funnel that our team goes through in kind of trying to identify these is played out as a microcosm in all of your enterprises. Here's the one thing though. As you're going through this filtering process, you can imagine that every startup and every incumbent product out there is doing the same thing. They're fighting for their survival. It is their job to make sure that they make it through successive layers of that funnel. They are very, very good at it. They are trained salespeople. They are trained marketeers. I'm not saying they're bad and evil. That is their job. However, when we as little geeks went off to little geek school, nobody put us into a class that said, here's how you take a look at vendors. Here's how you separate the hype. Here's how you focus in on the particular problems that you have and match it up with the solutions out there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a quick little detour here into explaining one process that helps flip around that home field advantage. right? In most of the selection processes that we see at customers, the vendors actually have home field advantage, even though they're sitting in your conference room. It's their PowerPoint, it's their people, it's their schedule, it's their duration, it's their scope, it's their topics, it's their speakers. We have seen some customers break this and flip this around to great effect. We do this internally on our own research team too, but this process we call the solution overview process. Let me tell you a little bit about what that is. So you've got a problem, you're trying to solve it, you've got it detailed, you've got the teams, you've got budget, you've got schedule, all of these things are being done. You've identified who the market players are that solve that that particular problem in a fashion that you believe is going to work with your constraints and opportunities. But we're not going to bring them in for a deep dive yet. That's the normal path, right? I've got 10 players in here. Let's allocate a day for each of them. We'll bring them in. We'll turn our engineers loose on them, and at the end of it, we'll do like a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing, and we'll figure out who it is. We're not going to do that here. What we're going to do is give each of these vendors, could be 2, could be 10, but they're only going to get 30 minutes, and the customer, you, are going to control this entire process. And why are we doing this? The main reason is we want the fastest path to a no. If we've got 10 products out there, we want to eliminate 8 of them very, very quickly. We think you can eliminate them in about 30 minutes and find the ones that are perfect for your next deep dive, so you're spending your time and scarce resources on the things that actually matter. This also allows us to bypass hype. Hype is the biggest inhibitor to speedy progress through this process. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to start by sending the vendors the rules of the game. Just like when you go and sit down at a blackjack table out there, the rules of the game are actually printed right there in front of you. You can't change the rule. The dealer's not going to let you change the rule. The pit boss is not going to let you change the rule. The casino runs the game. Why? Because the casino wants to win. This is the same thing here. You want to win. So you're going to send out the rules beforehand. You're going to send out the invite. You're going to ask them to answer 5 questions. These are the 5 questions. You're going to give them homework at the end of that 30 minutes. Let's talk about a couple of these in a little bit more detail. The first thing you're going to hear from a vendor, by the way, I almost guarantee 80% of the time you're going to hear, hey, I need more than 30 minutes. I'm flying in a kangaroo from Brazil. That thing's going to jump on a pogo stick. That's an easy 2 hours, right? The vendor is going to have they're locked in, in fact, we even have the term for it, right? The dog and pony show, right? They're going to go ahead and be locked into that. You're going to bust them out of that and say you got 30 minutes. Another thing you're going to hear a lot, notice one of these questions says, how are you different from your competition? You're going to see 2 variants quite a bit that should raise red flags here. If a vendor says, look, we don't really have any competition, there are 2 reasons that they will say this, and that is that A, they've been coached by their marketing department, don't give the competitors any time of day. We don't want to mention them. We don't even want to acknowledge that they exist. That is because that company fears their competition. That should be a red flag. The second variable on this is that they may not know who their competition is. Their product may be heading off in 58 different directions, and you'll get an answer like, well, our biggest competition is do it yourself. Well, that's like not really even an answer, right? So red flag there. If a company does not know who their competition is, it means they do not know what market they're playing in. That should be a big red flag for you. Bypassing hype. Notice we said this was 30 minutes. So here's a cool little technique that you can apply. As soon as the vendor starts, every vendor, I don't know why, but they always begin by saying, we are the leading blah, 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 right? Well, as soon as they say that word leading, say, what do you mean by leading? Do you mean by market share, top line revenue, growth rate, customer installs? They're going to have to spend 45 seconds of their valuable 30 minutes explaining what the word leading means. And then they're going to say, well, we're a hyper-converged. You go, wait, hang on, hyper-converged. How does that differ from converged? How is that different from a regular appliance? Are you software only, or do you provide the hardware too? They're going to quickly learn that every time they throw one of those buzzwords out there, it's going to cost them a minute of their time. They know where the hype is in their material. They're going to start skipping over the hype because they don't want to waste any more time. Hey, you just had them do your job for you. Isn't that cool? You're going to send out the invite, and this seems like a very trivial logistical type thing, but here's the trick that we're playing on there. You're going to send the invite out in 2 phases. The first phase is going to be to the vendor. Why? Because you control this process. You're going to control the time, the location, the forum, whether it's via a web conference, whether it's in person, you're going to control that. The second invite you're going to send is to all of your internal resources. Hey, we need the guys from architecture in here. We need the data intelligence folks in here. We're going to control that ourselves. But the cool thing by doing it in that order in 2 phases, the vendor never sees your distro list. So your engineers never get on the spam list, after you've eliminated this vendor 14 years ago and they're still sending you their newsletter. And homework. At the end of this, you're going to give them a homework assignment. You're going to say, well, now that we've heard about product X, can you put together an architectural diagram that says how you would tackle a HIPAA-compliant cloud-based storage compliance regime? You're going to give them an assignment. And why are you giving them an assignment? To be quite honest, you don't almost care what the answer is that comes back. You want to see whether they will do the assignment. If they won't return homework back to you, you know exactly where you rank in the priorities of that particular company, right? You don't want to go 3 years down the road and be sitting there going, these guys really look great in the demo, but I can't get any support. Little trick there. Again, most of these tricks, they don't take very much of your time. So, the solution overview process. I am not saying that this is how you have to do this. I'm saying that, first off, internally, by us doing this literally hundreds of times a year, and by us watching hundreds of customers apply techniques, this seems to be the most effective path forward. If you've got something that works better than this, I would be keenly interested in knowing, because then I'll update my slide and I'll say that I invented it. Surely you can do this. You guys gonna finish the sentence? All right, more 45-year-olds than over. Awesome. Well, here's the thing. You're going to get an opportunity to try this technique out. We have a Pitch Your Tech session that's coming up this afternoon. In it, we're having 3 vendors get on stage. They're going to talk for 5 minutes. Now, we're not even giving them 30 minutes. These guys have got 5 minutes. So first off, hats off to these companies, right, for being able to condense that down. A lot of pressure for these guys. Go ahead, give it a try. While they're up on stage going through this, sit back and think, okay, if I was controlling this, what would I be asking? What would I be gleaning out? Ooh, that was a buzzword. I would have to challenge them on that. And at the end of it, is this a company that I would bring in for a deep dive? By the way, I'll put my salesman hat on a little bit and say, if that is the case, why don't you call them in for a deep dive? That might be good, right? All right, so we talked about the tactical side. Let's talk about the strategic side. We're not going to go into a ton of detail on this. But you heard Robert and Shell get up here a little bit before and talk about their view down the road. So as you're preparing for tomorrow's challenges, it's exactly the stuff like Robert and Shell were talking about, and kudos to those guys. By the way, I want to point out, I don't know if any of you guys noticed, but there's a chapter in that book that says, what could possibly go wrong? That's chapter 13. Is that cool? That's kind of cool. I like that. When you're preparing for tomorrow, you're going to have to get a view over the horizon. You're going to have to take a look at leading indicators. In other words, things that aren't here yet, but we have leading indicators over the horizon. You heard things like VC briefing, going out and seeing what are those new products that are in development right now. You're going to have to figure out market drivers, the whys. Why is the market moving in this direction? Why is augmented reality going to disrupt my business? Why are people investing more in AI now when it was invented, 30, 40 years ago? Why is that? You're going to have to investigate new market trends. Based upon these market drivers and leading indicators, what are the trends that are going on today and that I can go ahead and make some predictions and recommendations down the road? You're going to have to do those types of things. I'm going to recap real quick here. Your job in IT, if I was to boil it down into a 4-word job description for everyone that works in IT, your job is to bring control out of chaos. That is your job. However, we face a myriad of things that are introducing chaos perpetually into our environment, one of which is technology disorder, both tactical and strategic. You need to gain home field advantage when you are taking on some of these challenges and bringing that order out of chaos. And give it a try. I mean, you're going to get an opportunity this afternoon. You can also write to the email address on the screen there. And with that,
While chaos has no equal and fear no ally, one team with one goal has no limit. Trace 3 Research wants you to join the rebellion. Join us. Fight chaos. Fight fear. Fight the urge to laugh out loud. Really, don't laugh. Hey, I mean you, buddy. Because if you thought chaos was terrifying, you haven't seen anything.